Craig's never shown an interest in beekeeping before, but that's the sound of him buying 2,000 worker bees rather than doing his self-assessment. Craig, you live in a 6th floor flat. The deadline is 31st of January. Less distraction, more action.
Don't be like Craig. Visit gov.uk/self-assessment today. Payment support may be available.
It's a historically hideous season.
It's our 100th ugly house.
And if these walls could talk...
Do you cry a lot?
I do.
Ugliest House in America season premiere Wednesday at 8 on HGTV.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Visit Blinds.com now for up to 45% off site-wide and free professional installation. Rules and restrictions apply.
Hello and welcome to The Price of Football, the show that looks at the money behind the beautiful game, with me, Kevin Day, and Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire, who very kindly tried not to make me laugh when we started this by counting me in his usual way, but the mere act of trying not to make me laugh obviously made me laugh. But the ribs are fine, so it's a joy to see his happy, smiling face. I know how you are, Kieran. You're happy and smiley.
Yes, I'm annoying people. Although, I have discovered over the course of the last 2 or 3 weeks, I have a superpower. And my superpower is the ability to send people to sleep. And the reason why this is a superpower is, as you know, I've got 2 young granddaughters. So we went to Lapland for a few days, and clearly they've been spending a lot of time with us, and we've been spending time with them during the Christmas and New Year. And when I give a bedtime story, apparently my voice is so smooth, so soothing and rhythmic that every night they're asleep within 5 minutes, and their mum's just going, "This is wrong." Yeah, but as she's 3 Prosecco's in within half an hour herself, she goes, "Well, I'll forgive you for that." So yeah, I'm now Superpower Maguire. If there's any listeners out there who've got problem children that need a bedtime story, I can even bring my own books. Not necessarily. I don't think our books would be appropriate, but I can do a bit of. Do a bit of this, that, and the other for you, and I've got a big selection of Gruffalos.
It could be, of course, that they're pretending. Kieran's granddad's just going, "Once upon a time in Company's house." Oh no, he's reading the spreadsheets out again. I'll tell you what I've discovered in the last few weeks, Kieran, since we were back together properly, the social niceties of visiting somebody who's had a bad accident. Because I've discovered that men, blokes, all my mates that have come round, no matter what state I've been in, they're all going, "Oh, you look great. It's fantastic." Because that means they can avoid any conversation about how I actually may feel. Whereas all my female visitors have gone, "Oh, Lordy, crikey, anything we can do, you're a long way away." Which is, you can't. And I've also discovered that blokes, i.e. me, when asked how you are, no matter how much pain you're in, you just go, "I'm all right, not bad. Thank you," because that shuts down the conversation as well. It's fantastic. Also, the amount of blokes who think it's hilarious to bring you grapes because of some atavistic carry-on matron memory. Yes. I don't know what to bring him. Grapes. Barbara Windsor used to bring them.
Well, grapes used to be dead posh when we were kids, weren't they?
I don't recall seeing grapes when I didn't see an olive till I was 25. What a lovely girl she was. It may surprise our listeners to learn it's questions day, Kieran. My first question was going to be, what's been happening to the Premier League? I've not been paying attention. I presume we're still 4th, but luckily Manchester United have provided me with another question, which we will literally 10 minutes before we came on air, rather surprisingly sacked their manager. So on Thursday, Kieran, we'll be doing a deep dive into how much that's going to cost them. I imagine it's slightly come out of the blue. So we've seen Chelsea and Man United both sack their managers in the last 5 days, Kieran.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things to pick up from this. First of all, don't upset the boss. I teach for a variety of organisations, one of which is the League Managers Association, and one of the first things I always say to the cohort there, everybody thinks that you're managing down, i.e., you are the coach, you are the first team manager, or whatever your position is, and it's therefore your sort of technical, tactical, psychological, physical, supportive role, which increases the abilities of the players. But you've also got to learn how to manage the boardroom. Because those are the people that are going to be sacking you. And if they like you, if you've not upset them, then they might give you an extra fortnight where you get 2 wins and a draw, and you know how quickly the groovy vibes and the negative vibes swap around as far as a football club is concerned. So in the case of both Maresca and Amarin, they'd said, they weren't even snarky comments. They were, I'm a bit fed up. But yeah, perhaps they were trying to cajole their clubs into spending a bit more money in January. But clearly, that didn't go down well with Chelsea's is a hedge fund experiment operating within a football environment. And Manchester United is a billionaire's plaything, and these people don't like any type of negative comments because they've got such huge egos that they can't cope with it. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is that if you take a look at Manchester United and Chelsea, they are currently in 5th and 6th positions as far as the Premier League is concerned. And looking at it through a financial lens, the difference between qualifying for Champions League and Europa League has never been bigger. And therefore, I think the senior management teams at both clubs have decided to twist in terms of trying to enhance their opportunities to be in the top 5. And it does look once again as if the Premier League going to have 5 positions in the Champions League, and that's worth a minimum of £50 million. And if you go far in the tournament, you can add another 100 million on top.
Technically, Chelsea are the best football team in the world.
Yeah.
After winning that tournament, which begs the question: where are they going to find a better manager
than the person that won the World Cup, the World Championship?
Yeah, and you assume. I mean, he was a slightly left field appointment, but you assume it will come from the usual suspects. You'd imagine. I don't think they'll be looking for Ole Glasner, either of them. They'll be looking for the Mourinhos and the top Italian memory loss following accident moment there. Remind me of another top man, just the white-haired one, manages in Spain everywhere. Oh, he's a...
Except, of course, they're an MCO. They're a multi-club organisation, they might manage to prize Liam Rosinia from Strasbourg. They might manage to negotiate a deal. Who knows? Who's going to persuade Strasbourg to give up an inventive, up-and-coming manager to go to Chelsea? I don't know who are Strasbourg's owners. Oh, it's Chelsea. So we'll wait and see. This could be the first ever scenario in which a promising manager goes to another club, and the club which he's leaving pays for the privilege.
Yeah,
to help Chelsea's PSR position.
That will please Chelsea fans. A man who nearly got Hull into the playoffs taking over at Chelsea. That'll be an interesting one. Who am I thinking of? Who's the white-haired manager? Very suave. Managed everywhere. National. Oh, it's terrible. It will come to me. Always wears a lovely cashmere coat on the sidelines. Was managing Real Madrid. This is terrible, isn't it?
Agnelli?
No.
No,
he owns Juventus.
Oh no, yeah, I'm hopeless on managers.
Well, distracts me.
Carlo Ancelotti.
Ancelotti, there you go. Thank you very much.
He's already managed Chelsea.
He has. Yeah. I'll be fine once I've got this residual morphine out of my system, Kieran. I'll be absolutely fine. I shall miss it, but I shall be absolutely fine. Jude McCarthy has our first question, some 12 minutes in to this pod. And on the face of it, Kieran, this is a question that everybody knows the answer to, but I think it's worth asking just to see whether there are other ways to answer it, if you see what I mean. So Jude McCarthy said, how does the payment of transfer fees typically work at the top level? Presumably when players sign for £100 million, the fee is split into instalments. How does that usually work? But I think the big question is there another way of paying for a £100 million transfer other than amortisation?
Well, I think you need to split this into two issues. First of all, there's the accounting treatment of the player that has been signed. And here you will amortize. So if you sign a £100 million player on a 5-year contract, then you split that over 5 years. So that works out as 20 million. Under the changes to the rules brought in by both UEFA and the Premier League, and I think these apply to the EFL as well, even if you now sign that £100 million player on an 8-year contract, for accounting purposes, the player will be amortized over 8 years, but for PSR purposes, it would be over 5 years. So that does cause complications. So there's an accounting issue, and that has implications for PSR, SCR, and the various cost control rules. Then there is a cash issue. Even the wealthiest clubs in the world don't necessarily have £100 million sitting in a bank account, and there's two reasons for this. First of all, they tend to be money loss organisations, so therefore they are reliant upon the owner putting in money on a regular basis. And secondly, people often will say to me, "Cool, having £100 million in a bank account is really good." No, it's not. It's really dumb, because you should be able to do something better with that cash. Whether you invest that, if you that money as an individual, whether you invest that in real estate, or you invest that in equities, or you invest that in debt. But if you've got just £100 million sitting in the bank account, you're getting a really rubbish return on it, and you might have some debt yourself, so it'd make more sense. So therefore, the clubs don't tend to have a lot of cash in the account. So Jude, you're absolutely right. The vast majority of deals, certainly at the elite end, are negotiated between clubs over a period of time. And this actually can cause problems. Now, I won't name the player because I don't want to get in trouble with the clubs concerned, but I was aware, for example, of a player that had a release clause in his contract, which I think it was around about 35 million. And that player had agreed to go to another club over the course of last summer, June, July 2025. So the player wanted to go to the club. The club was willing to pay the release clause, but the buying club said, "We want to pay for this in 3 installments." And the selling club said, well, in which case we're not prepared to let the player go, because as far as we're concerned, it's 35 million up front. So another club in the Premier League came in and bought that player, and they paid 35 million pounds up front. So there are complications. And again, you'd look at the contract here and you say, well, perhaps from the player's point of view, or the player's representative's point of view, should you have taken this into consideration when negotiating the contract? But if we take a look at the Premier League, I've got my spreadsheet in front of me, and it says that there are unpaid instalments of transfer fees for the 20 Premier League clubs, which total £3.6 billion. And the highest of those, Manchester United, well, Chelsea at the highest, Manchester United following. So it is very much as part of the way that things take place. It has implications for VAT. It has implications for fans, because if you sell a player for 50 million, what do the fan base say? Well, you got 50 million pounds sitting in a bank account burning a hole, and if the owner doesn't go out and buy players, they start to man the pitchforks and get very angry and say, well, you're wasting the money, ignoring the fact that the club A might be in debt and B has probably only got a third of that. Certainly when I've seen some contracts which have been sneaked into the public domain, or by pure accident, I get emailed them by a player's representative or somebody connected at a club by accident. So they could never name the clubs or the individuals involved. And they say, well, what do you think of this? I say, well, I'll give you my professional opinion. It's quite often done in 3 installments, I would say, for a player sort of in the 30 to 40 million pound bracket. I think when Philippe Coutinho went from Liverpool to Barcelona, it was staggered over about 5 or 6 payments. So I think 6 is the highest I've ever seen. But that was was a fantastic deal from Liverpool's point of view. And I know that Coutinho was Barcelona still had unpaid instalments when Coutinho was on loan at Aston Villa and other clubs dotted around. That particular deal didn't work out from a playing perspective.
I understand it's a big part of the job of every PA who works in the Premier League these days to make sure their boss doesn't accidentally copy you in on important emails. The first thing you go, Steve, what are you doing? You've put copy here. Oh my God, don't send, for the love of God, don't put it. It's too late.
Crystal Palace's email system does probably need a review, to be fair, Kevin.
as we know. So I was slightly distracted. I just written the words Carlo Ancelotti down about 10 times with an exclamation. The other reason I'm distracted, apart from the residual morphine, is that producer Guy very kindly sent me a whole load of more emails from listeners who emailed questions to pass on kind regards to me, which is lovely. One of them had a picture of Don Rogers back in the day, which is distracting enough as it is. Classic front cover Match magazine pose, Palace kit, white with the claret and blue stripe down the front, hand on ball, no shorts, just in his pants.
What? Oh, right.
So obviously Don Rogers' PA back in the day forgot to put it's the most distracting photographs I've ever seen. Scott Oxley has our next question. And I think this is a cracking question, Kieran. Albeit possibly slightly existential, but I think this is a really interesting question, and I'm looking forward to your reply. Scott Oxley says, why do the EFL now need so much future-proofing of funds for a new owner to be able to stay in the club, even if the current owner definitely can't? In other words, would the EFL block a purchase of a club from a new owner who can't quite meet the financial requirements, thus keeping it in the hands of an owner who definitely can't meet the financial requirements and has run out of money? In other words, would the EFL ever go for the lesser of two evils? Here's somebody who can't afford to run the club, but they can afford it more than this idiot.
Yeah, I understand where Scott is coming from. I've had some dealings with the EFL, as you know. I think Scott's actually got a key word here, the word sustain. And if you're just going to kick a problem down the road for 3 or 4 months, you're not actually addressing the problem. So therefore, the EFL's stance is what they want to do is to act as a filter, to have a set of rules in place that the prospective owner can buy the club, but B, that they can then run it. So it's no point buying a car if you can't afford to put petrol in it. So that's their perspective, and also they are fully aware that there are nefarious, shall we say, nefarious prospective owners, and I think it's intriguing that the EFL has effectively now agreed to transfer the responsibilities in terms of the owners and directors tests across to the independent football regulator. I'm popping up to see the regulator in the next week or two. So during the course of the conversation, I'm going to try to persuade them that it will be in everybody's best interest. Yeah, we would love to have them to have an appearance on the Price of Football and to get listeners to ask questions, because I think there's a lot of misconception, and misrepresentation by vested parties. To see what's happened to date, and we did release an Andy, of course, when those additional powers were introduced a few weeks ago, but just to see how things are working out. So if you are at 11:59 p.m. on the day on Doomsday, and I'm a fan of that football club, I can absolutely understand, Scott. You'll say we don't care who the new owner is. But as Bury fans found when Stuart Day sold Bury Football Club to Steve Dale, the new owner can be worse. Stuart Day was not a good owner. If we take a look at Scunthorpe United, when they were sold, they went from one bad owner to a worse owner. And there is a history in football of chancers, fly-by-nights, tyre kickers, raving lunatics taking over. and making things worse because they've actually got a Dick Dastardly style plan for the club. So from the outside, I can absolutely understand Scott's position. I think the aim of the EFL is that if we can transfer clubs to new owners, you think about Chris Kirchner, the preferred owner at Derby. Everton could have been acquired by 777 Partners. That would have been a disaster. They've now got more sedate owners, both clubs, it has to be said, but much more sustainable owners. And whilst it won't have been the roller coaster of emotions that you would have had with Chris Kirchner or 777, both Everton and Derby are looking like clubs who are solid. And there's a lot to be said for that. And the nature of football is that as fans, we all tend to have very, very short memories, and we forget just what it was like going to bed each night, not sure whether you were having a football club to support the following morning, which might have been the case a few years ago. And now, results are a bit mediocre. The football's not inspiring, but you've got a football club, and you know that football club's going to be there this year, next year, and so on.
You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So then I'm doing IT, and when I go to plug the servers in, they become sentient, and they won't let us access our network unless we forward their chain emails and memes to more and more and more people, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant finds and invites best fit candidates to apply, so you can discover talent you may have missed. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
It'd be lovely to get the regulator on. I feel slightly sorry for producer Guy having to sift out the emails. Here's another one from Steve Parrish. He can't have 4 questions. Todd Bowley, no, not asking that. Simon Jordan, this one's definitely from Simon Jordan because there isn't 2 G's in regulator, so we know it's from him. It'd be great. We should. I think. I predict we would have a record number of questions from our listeners to the regulator, because even now, anecdotally, talking to people, there is confusion about what the regulator's job is, and I can't quite see why that is, except that some of it is being deliberately sown by people who don't want the regulator. Anyway, Grant Lane has our next question. Grant Lane, it's a great name, Grant Lane. It does sound like a non-league club's ground, doesn't it, Grant Lane?
Yes.
I'd love it. I'd love a name that sounded like a non-league. If a community football club set up as a CIC without shares experiences rapid on-field success, rising through the leagues and initially relying on funding from the likes of the Football Foundation, National Lottery and applications to grant-giving organisations. However, when they climb higher up the leagues, the cost of ground expansion, wages and other expenses become more than significant and not covered by funding submissions. So given that a CIC can't issue shares in the traditional way to attract investors, how could such a club secure the necessary investment to continue its growth and remain competitive while staying true to its not-for-profit principles and community focus? And perhaps just for our new listeners, Kieran, you could just briefly explain what a CIC is, first of all.
Yeah, a CIC stands for Community Interest Company. And what it is, it was a new body. It's a new enterprise where you don't have the traditional objectives of a company, which is one of profit maximization and paying dividends. So CICs are normally what we say limited by guarantee. They've got to go and follow a sort of a list of objectives, and they are constrained in terms of what they can do financially. You can have CICs with shares, but I note the grant specifically states that this is a CIC without shares. So therefore, you have to look at the sources of funding. Now, for most enterprises, the sources of funding are either equity, i.e., shares, and we've seen, the likes of Manchester City and Newcastle with owners who've come in and put in millions upon millions of pounds into the club in the form of shares, but you can't go down that route. The other area is that you've now gone to the position where the club has reached a size where getting sort of national lottery grants is no longer applicable. But what you can do is that you can issue a bond. Clubs such as AFC Wimbledon, they've issued bonds. I bought a Dons bond, for example, and they can pay a rate of interest. So that's one route, and that's. I think you will get people. I'm not an AFC Wimbledon fan, but I did it because I'm a football fan, and they actually offered a higher rate of interest than I could get from sticking the money in a bank account. So I thought, there was a benefit in taking such an approach. I think Peterborough have gone down a similar route. I appreciate that neither of these organisations are CICs, but there's no reason why CIC couldn't go down this. The other is to get donations, or to get, if you are a social enterprise, you might have somebody local with a social conscience who is willing to make a donation or is willing to make an interest-free loan to the CIC, which would give it the additional funds, which would allow it to have the capital expenditure plans which are required from upgrades. And as we know from our experiences writing unfit and improper persons, those costs can be quite significant as you go through the tiers of football, and you have to comply with the ground regulations that apply as you progress through the football pyramid.
What are the circumstances, Kieran, in which a CIC becomes a better option to run a club than, say, fan ownership?
Well, I think I think it's more of a esoteric decision to make. If the people who are setting up the organisation want to, I'm not going to go Che Guevara on this, but they want to purely set up the football club as a social enterprise, and therefore what they want to do is, in their eyes, to protect the club going forwards from becoming potentially a takeover target. So there's, if we take a look at AFC Wimbledon at present, it was, from the embers, from the embryo, from the phoenix, from what happened when MK Dons effectively took on the license of the old Wimbledon Football Club. But they are a limited company, so at some point in future, could they go down the route of selling shares in the club? Yes, they could. I personally don't think that the members would agree. I know that there's been attempts in the past, because I think AFC Wimbledon's a very attractive proposition for a potential investor. It's in London, for example, and there's a London premium. There's good transport links. It's a nice area of London as well. It's got history. They've won the FA Cup. You and I, we both remember Dickie Guy and the 1970s and so on, because that's what we spoke about in the playground the following morning when we were listening to the match on the radio the previous night. That's what the FA Cup used to be. So there's lots of positives. So I don't think that a majority sale would take place, but I could see up to 49% of the club potentially being on offer. That's sort of similar to the general, but some fans won't like that. So they would have had that additional layer of protection had they continued to have a CIC as opposed to a limited company setup.
I could almost see Wimbledon's ground from my hospital ward, because it's my manor, it's my area, basically.
Yes, true.
I should point out, Kieran, that some areas of South London are nice. Wimbledon's ground is situated right in the middle of a shithole. I believe it's a designated GLA shithole, but it is. It's right. And they wouldn't mind me saying it. And of course, Wimbledon are looking for private investment, to mixed reactions from the fans, aren't they?
They are, yes. And It's then a case of saying, where do you want AFC Wimbledon to be as an entity? Because we've said on many an occasion on the show that I think that there's a natural ceiling of League One as far as a fan-owned club is concerned, because anything above that, the losses are too big to bear. Looking at what's happened in League One over the course of the last 2 or 3 seasons, one of the things which has got me slightly twitchy is that we are seeing bigger and bigger losses being made in League One. And is there now a case for saying, actually, is League Two probably a natural ceiling? Because you've only got to look at the level of expenditure taking place in League One. And some of the losses, some clubs are losing more than 100 grand a week. That can't be sustained by fans.
Yeah. Neil Thompson has our next question, Kieran. It's become strangely pertinent given events at Chelsea and Man United in the past couple of days. Neil says, I've been thinking for a while now, why don't clubs insert clauses into a new manager's contract that says something along the lines of, if we drop as low as position X in the table after Y number of games, then we can relieve you of your position with or without minimal compensation. With the eye-watering cost of sacking your manager these days, it seems surprising no one does this, and there are so many managers out there looking for a job. Surely some or most would take a punt on a job with a clause like that. I mean, it's an interesting question. In terms of the money that it's going to cost a club like Chelsea or Man United, you assume they've made this decision because it means they've got the whole of the transfer window to bring players in that a manager wants. So you're probably looking at the cost of sacking the manager plus 100 million minimum on 2-3 players. So it's a huge amount of money resting on a decision that's made almost on a whim.
Well, yes. Well, Neil, these clauses do exist. I can assure you. But remember, there's 2 sides to a negotiation. There's 2 sides to a contract. If that manager is very much in demand, then he may have 2 or 3 clubs courting him. And he'd say, well, it could be due to the fact that we've got consecutive away fixtures at the Etihad and Anfield and the Emirates. And therefore, if we drop to 14th on goal difference, and I've got and my next 3 home games are Wolves, West Ham, and Burnley, for example, I feel I'm getting a bit of a raw deal. So judge me perhaps on the end of the season, but to give you one example of these clauses, when Sir Alex Ferguson retired in 2013. His preferred choice, and I think the preferred choice of many Manchester United fans at the time, was David Moyes. And David Moyes had done a magnificent job at Everton, as everybody knows. And he signed a 6-year contract. But there was a clause in his contract which said that should Manchester United not qualify for the Champions League in the first season in which he was manager, Manchester United did not have to pay him up the remainder of the contract. They only had to pay him 12 months. And if people go back to what happened in 2014, it wasn't a great season for Manchester United, let's be honest. I think there were high expectations. And I recall Manchester United, they had a Sunday match, which they drew, and that dropped them to 7th position. I think there were 4 matches of the season, and it meant that they could not mathematically qualify for the Champions League. And David Moyes was sacked the following morning, because I remember at the time I was summoned, and Manchester United are a bit of a narky club at times. I had to go and speak to, I think it was the BBC and ITV camera crews outside. Manchester United wouldn't let the camera crews take up a position on the land which was the property of Manchester United, so we had to go to outside the gates. Which is fine. It's their choice, but it does seem a rather strange way to conduct yourself when good relations with the media are so important. So yes, there are long clauses in contracts, and that's why sports lawyers and representatives of managers are so important to protect the interests of their clients.
I can't remember what I'd done to upset Southampton Football Club at the time, but we were supposed to be filming a piece there, and they'd taken exception to something. And I just remember this press officer screaming, "Get off our footprint! Get off our foot!" It was just like, all right, mate. Well, just literally, I walked down. There's a little market. I'll cross this. There's going to be exactly the same camera shot with exactly the same ground in the background. Yeah, but you're off our footprint. All right.
Very sensitive. Very sensitive football clubs.
I'm off your footprint. Yeah, well, talking of sensitive, Kieran, did you have to choose 14th as a position in the league that is a poor one? Or did you do that
No, I don't even. I've not even looked at the table.
Me neither, funnily enough. I was still fourth, I imagine. Findley Hampshire has our next question. That's a strong name, Findley Hampshire. A strong question as well. Since the Premier League and the EFL are banning betting front of shirt sponsors from 2026, will Stoke City be majorly affected since they are fully sponsored by Bet365? If they are, what are the financial repercussions of this for Stoke?
Well, Finley, first of all, it is only the Premier League which is banning front of shirt sponsorship from the gambling industry. The EFL have voted to retain front of shirt deals from gambling companies, but I think you are right. I mean, Stoke City are having a half decent season. They could be back in the Premier League. Where would this leave them? It also has to be noted that that Bet365 are no longer the owners of Stoke City Football Club. The ownership has been transferred to a member of the Coates family who own Bet365. So therefore it's now it's indirect ownership by a gambling organisation. So I don't think that there will be any negative repercussions. We've had this discussion before. My view is that it's a daft decision to get rid of these these sponsorship arrangements on the front shirt, because they'll just migrate to the sleeve shirt, and it'll be replaced by gambling organisations which don't fit within the definition of a gambling organisation. So you'll get crypto and so on coming in as an alternative. So I don't personally see any benefits in the decision which has been made, but it's been made. I think at the time when the decision was made, it was part of the charm offensive that Premier League clubs were trying to put forward to show their opposition to the prospect of an independent football regulator. So we are responsible football clubs. Look at this decision that we've made, and perhaps in hindsight they would rather reverse that decision.
Yeah. Oddly enough, Kieran, we mentioned not long before Christmas the fact that there were so many crypto adverts on perimeter fencing at Premier League games at the moment. Seems to be far more than usual. And I had a message from a mate of mine to say, did we think that was because they were sort of softening us up for the fact that they would be the ones that replaced the gambling front of shirt sponsors?
No, it's talking to people that work in the media and advertising. It's the gambling companies have got the biggest wallets, and they are willing to pay a premium because all of the gambling companies have found that additional brand recognition, and that's what they're looking for, is achieved to a greater extent if they are being seen by eyeballs in 190 different countries around the world. And that's what the Premier League's got to offer. And that's going to be more beneficial than perhaps a car company or a financial services company, or even a Turkish hair replacement company is often seen. Somewhat baffling then, given my ever-receding hairline. I'm thinking, even I've clocked it, as has the Baroness. But they've got the resources to pay the prices which Premier League clubs are demanding.
Wherever Bud goes, his harmonica goes with him. It's a pocket full of soul. Now he's living with prostate cancer. He asked his doctor about Xtandi and enzalutamide. Extandi 40 milligram tablets treats men with prostate cancer that has spread to other parts of the body and responds to a medical or surgical treatment to lower testosterone. Extandi may cause serious side effects: seizure, a brain condition called PRESS, allergic reactions, heart disease that can lead to death, falls and bone fractures, swallowing problems, or choking that can lead to death. Stop Extandi and get medical help at once if your face, tongue, lip, or throat start swelling. Tell your doctor at once if you faint, have a seizure, quickly worsening headache, decreased alertness, confusion, vision problems, chest pain or discomfort, or shortness of breath. Extandi can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during and 3 months after Extandi. Common side effects include muscle and joint pain, feeling unusually tired, hot flashes, constipation, less appetite, diarrhea, high blood pressure, bleeding, falls, fractures, and headache. Talk to your doctor and visit Extandi.com.
Let's do the 60-second savings challenge. Step 1, download Rocket Money. Step 2, link your accounts and see every subscription you're paying for. Tap one you don't use and cancel it. That's money back every month. Step 3, create a financial goal. $50 every paycheck. Or let the app automatically move small amounts of cash when you can afford it. In a week, you'll forget you set it up. In a month, you'll see real dollars piling up. In a year, you'll be shocked at how much money you've saved. Bonus challenge. Upload an internet or phone bill and let Rocket Money try to lower it. You only pay if they find you savings. On average, Rocket Money members can save up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Users love the app with over 186,000 five-star ratings. Make saving money the resolution you actually keep. Start the 60-second savings challenge at rocketmoney.com/cancel. That's rocketmoney.com/cancel. rocketmoney.com/cancel.
The Baroness just wants a couple of days in Turkey, basically. I'm sure.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I'm sure one of those clinics will be by a beach somewhere, won't they?
Yes.
The trouble is with those things, one of my uncles did it, and it's just like, unless you do it gradually, which he couldn't afford to do, you just notice.
Yes.
You just go, hang on a second, he was bald last week, and now he's and there's nothing. What are you supposed to do in these circumstances? Are you supposed to congratulate them, pretend you haven't noticed? It's it's difficult because he kept pointing at his head, but it's. Yeah. We mentioned Che Guevara early, Kieran, and I think Che Guevara would approve.
Yes.
Of our last question on this pod. I think he'd very much approve. Brian Farman has his question, and Brian says many of football's problems could be eliminated by the nationalisation of the EFL under control of the new regulator. Wouldn't that cause it? Imagine that. The fuss that would cause if the regulator turns around and goes, actually, I've fooled you all. I'm here to nationalise the EFL. And Brian says, I'm fairly sure the cancellation of the Christmas bonus for pensioners would generate enough money to cover League One and below. But what would be fair compensation for the Championship club owners in the unlikely event that the Championship was nationalised?
Well, do you mind if I call you Wolfie, Brian? If we were to take a look at the EFL, and I'm wearing a beret whilst I'm answering this question, and Kevin can testify to that effect, we would have to go down a valuation route. Now, in my view, you're probably looking at somewhere between 2 and 2.5 times revenue for the club. So if we take a look at the revenue generated by all the EFL clubs together, that comes to around about £1.3 billion. So therefore, to compensate owners, I think we'll be looking at somewhere in the region of £2.5 to £3 billion for the clubs, the 72 clubs in the EFL. And then there would have to be presumably additional taxes brought in because those clubs are losing money. And I've seen a few EFL clubs publish their financial results over Christmas and the New Year period. And there's two things which really stand out for me. First of all, fair play to the EFL in terms of the new TV deal. That's certainly increasing substantially the money coming in. And secondly, perhaps not so much credit to the EFL clubs who've gone and I think the official word is spaffed all of that additional money on higher wages.
Is that the official word, Kieran?
Well, if it's good enough for former prime ministers, it's good enough for me.
That's true. It still is one of my favourite memories of last year on a very warm summer's day. outside Tooting Broadway tube station. A chap who must have been in his 80s with his sheepskin coat and his beret, having his photographs taken, shouting "Power to the people," while his bemused younger wife took a photograph, wondering whether the journey from Thailand was worth it after all. Thank you to everyone who's joined the Price of Football Club. Happy New Year to you all. Happy New Year to all our listeners, and a very big thank you from me to all those listeners who have sent messages via Producer Guy. I really do appreciate it, and Kieran and I both appreciate how much the pod means to some of you. If you'd like to join that club too and get every episode a day earlier than everyone else, ad-free listening and invite to our monthly QA sessions, bonus episodes and more, then go to our website, priceoffootball.com. If you have a question you'd like answered on the show, email us at questions@priceoffootball.com. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter and you can find us on YouTube. And if you'd like to buy one of our books or even the Price of Football t-shirt, you can find all the details back on that website, priceoffootball.com. We'll be back on Thursday with our news pod, which will include a deeper dive into the Chelsea and Man United implications of sacking their manager. In the meantime, I shall hand you over to Mr. Kieran Maguire for his customary farewell.
Well, thank you, and I do wish all our listeners a bonny 2026. I ended up yesterday, a couple of days ago. I've actually worked every single day over Christmas, with the exception of Christmas Day for
of course you have.
On work projects, which I can't go into. But at times I've had to seek solace in the television, and I ended up watching a documentary about wacky races. I did, yes. And it was fascinating. I didn't know. I grew up thinking, wow, wacky races, what a show. There were only 17 episodes of wacky races ever made. I can. The Price of Wacky Races.
Wow.
There's a whole new podcast in that. But which got me besides that. Yeah, I think for people of our era, we just had it down as one of those fantastic shows of our youth. But thank you all for the support of the show, and yes, the support of the club members, and we really enjoyed doing the quiz with you just before Christmas. That was a real giggle. But there's another way to support the show, and that's just to give us a review. Doesn't matter what you say. So you could even say you would rather the show presented by Penelope Pitstop and Nick Cave. And I think that could be one of the most surreal programmes ever shown on television or radio or podcast.
Oh, that's gonna go one of two ways, isn't it? Really?
Yes.
But, I can't. It's not going to happen. That's one. Every now and again,
probably not going to happen.
Every now and again, I think to myself, we could make that one happen. This one, for very many reasons, not going to happen. I always remember thinking about it because you had the Ant Hill mob, who were actual mafia gangsters.
They were, yes,
with machine guns, and you had the Arkansas Chuggabug, who were probably members of the Ku Klux Klan. When you think about it. How did this get on TV? How are we choosing between these two? Well, a man and he's trying to stop a pigeon for an hour. Never mind. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The Price of Football. The Price of Football.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.